Hey folks, let me quickly walk you through how to use the Kafka Connect Zeebe. So that's a Kafka connector in order to connect to the Zeebe workflow engine. Um, the Zeebe workflow engine is what fuels Camunda Cloud, so you can obviously have it as a managed version in the cloud. And I want to quickly showcase that today. Okay, so in order to run it, you first of all you have to get the connector. There's basically the one way that you can do yourself locally, for example, to simply build the connector. We have one in Confluent Hub, but I'm currently at like try to get that updated. So the best way is really to build the connector yourself. So you just check out the repo that's linked to that video on GitHub, Kafka Connect Zeebe. You do a Maven build, it's a Java connector, and then you have one artifact, which let me quickly show that. As soon as you build that, it's here. It's a so-called Uber jar, so it's a pretty big one, which you can simply drop into the connectors folder for your Docker Compose files, which we will use to run the connector. Okay, as simple as that. Then there are two Docker Compose files which you can leverage. So the one I want to use today is the normal one, Docker Compose, that starts basically Kafka, Kafka Connect, and these kind of things. So it doesn't start the workflow engine at all because we want to use cloud. Okay, so let's briefly do that. So if we go to that directory and to the Docker directory, we can simply say Docker Compose. Let's quickly check if I removed everything from the previous run, which I'm not completely sure. Let's do it. Can run it, right? As you can see, what it does, Kafka Connect, Kafka Control Center, Kafka itself, Elasticsearch Zookeeper. So a couple of things which are started here in the background. Okay, this will take a bit depending on your local machine. What I do in parallel is I create the workflow engine. Therefore, I go to Camunda Cloud. So in this case, console cloud Camunda.io. You can create your account, you can get a test account. It's relatively easy to get started. And then I can create a new workflow engine. I call it Kafka Connect demo. We keep the typo to make sure it's live. I make a small production scenario that depends like how we configure the engine in the background. That takes a moment to start up. One thing I can already do, I need to connect to it. So you have to create client credentials here. I call that, now I want to connect from Kafka, so I call it Kafka Connect. Then I get client credentials. Basically, I have now a cluster ID for my workflow engine. I have a client ID and the secret in order to connect to it. I want to use a small example here, which is the ping pong example. So if you go back, there's the ping pong example. The ping pong example is business-wise, I wouldn't call it business, very simple. So I send out something from a workflow to Kafka, right? Then it's directly consumed again and triggers the workflow to continue. Okay. So here in the middle, I have a Kafka topic. Therefore, I use the source actually to get everything on the Kafka topic, and then I use the sink to correlate it back to my waiting workflow instance. Okay, cool. Let's start with the source. So if I go to that directory here, where is it? Examples ping pong, there we are. What you can see is that you have a sink and a source. JSON. So that's a configuration for Kafka Connect. If you know Kafka Connect, I mean, that's very obvious to you. All of them have this kind of configuration. Now you have two possibilities. You could either configure properties to connect Zeebe to Zeebe locally, which I don't want to use here. That's why I, in that case, commented them out. But I want to use my small cloud account. I put that in front of the noise which is happening here. Where is my cluster console here? So I have a cluster ID. I use it here. Boing. I use a client ID, which I want to use here. And I use the secret, this one. here. Right. That's everything for my source. I also, I can already foresee that I have to adjust the sync as well. So let's briefly do that. And that's basically everything I need. Now connect to that Zeebe workflow engine in Camunda Cloud. And there are a couple of small configurations which I don't want to walk you through in this recording. And now the next thing I do is basically to deploy the connector. In order to deploy the connector, you could use the user interface from Confluent, for example, but I use curl. So I basically push that JSON file I just edited to Kafka Connect. Right. I use curl to do that. So let's create the source. And now maybe it's again interesting to see the console here. So as soon as I do that, what you can see is that it creates the connector. It connects directly to my workflow engine. I don't see any error, which is a good thing, right? So it seems to work pretty well. Cool. I can probably verify that by going to my localhost 83 connectors. So I see the ping connector now. That's my ping source connector I just created. You can also see that in the if I go back, sorry for jumping a bit around. But the good thing is, you can always pause the recording and go back. I just want to quickly walk you through it. So you can also go to Confluent Control Center. That's what I was searching for. So if you go to the Control Center, you can also see the connectors there. So I have my cluster. I have connect. I have one connector running, which is the ping connector. And yeah, you can then even go to like all the settings where you can see everything we configured earlier on and so on and so forth. Okay, so that works pretty cool. But so far we haven't used it, so we want to use it. And therefore, what you can do is you can open the ping pong process, right, in the Zeebe modeler. The Zeebe modeler can be downloaded from the Zeebe homepage. And there you can do the BPMN file, which we just saw. There you can see that this one is pinging out, and it had a header to configure the topic, the Kafka topic this should go to. So that's everything I need here. I want to deploy that file to Camunda Cloud. I can use the modeler for that. You could use command line if you prefer, but the modeler is pretty handy actually as well. So let me copy these credentials again. So I need the client secret. I need the client ID, the client address. There we go. So hello. Hello, modeler. This is valid, actually. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So now I can deploy it. And we can see now, if I go back to Camunda Cloud, to my cluster, I can go to Operate. Operate is the operations tool, so basically the control center on the Camunda end. And we can see I now have the ping pong process deployed. There it is. But I haven't yet started any instance. In order to kick off a new instance, I could do it here, but then I don't provide any data to it. But I want to have data flowing around. So what I use instead is I use Zeebe command line, CBCTL, which you can download from the Zeebe homepage. And then you can point that to your Camunda Cloud cluster again. So I have to provide credentials one more time. Let's copy it from here this time. So we have the address, we have the client ID, and we have the, okay, that doesn't work. We have the secret. There we go. There's my secret. And then I create a new instance of the ping pong workflow, but with data. Like in this case, I have the payload with a key. And this key is used to correlate, actually. So let's use CBCTL to kick off a new workflow instance. What did I do wrong? CBCTL, client ID, client secret, create instance variables. Oh, I see. There is something wrong with the quoting. Where did I copy that just from? I have no idea. It should be okay in the README. Sorry. Yay! I kicked off a new workflow instance. I can see that in operate. So there's now one workflow instance. It's just waiting here, right? Because I haven't yet. Oh, I did start the connector. Did I deploy the connector? Yeah, I did deploy the connector, the source connector. So it should actually advance. Oh, awesome, it does. So it basically, the source connector picked it up. We probably could have seen that here. Let's create another one with a key 2, right? So if I see that here, you briefly see here a log going through that this was published, right? So that's pretty quick. And we did a lot of load test scenarios to make sure this also works on a bigger scale. So that's pretty cool. Now we have the 2 waiting for something on the Kafka topic to correlate back. That's now the task of the sync connector. So we started the source. Let's also start the sync. Again, we push the JSON file to the connectors. Let's do that. You can see that it's running here. And we should probably also see some logs coming by. Here, publish 2 messages, right? So it published these 2 messages back to the workflow. It correlated them based on that key on the data we provided. So if I refresh here, I should see that these 2 are finished. That's basically it. That's what I wanted to walk you through quickly. Thank you for watching. Have fun, have fun with it. Try it out yourself and see you another time. Bye bye.